Dear chosen ones, you've arrived here today for a reason, and trust me when I say it's no accident. This moment, this journey, is one that's been unfolding for you long before you even realized it. You are part of a divine story that goes far deeper than what the surface of this world can show you. Perhaps you've known for years that you're different, or maybe you're just now starting to recognize the truth. There's something set apart about you. There's a reason your soul has always yearned for something higher, something more. Today we'll dive into that truth, exploring not just who you are, but the quiet yet powerful transformation happening within you. Though others may not see it, you can feel it deep down in your spirit. Let me ask you, have you ever looked back at your life and wondered why, even as a child, you always felt as though you were older than your years? Why did you carry an invisible weight, an unexplainable responsibility that others around you never seemed to notice? Even as a child, you viewed the world through eyes of wisdom far beyond your age. You didn't have the words to explain it then, but deep down, you always knew you were different. You might have struggled with this sense of difference, feeling out of place among your peers, perhaps even in your own family. Have you ever felt isolated, as if the world around you couldn't fully understand who you were or what you were meant to become? But here's the question I want to leave you with. What if those early struggles weren't a mistake? What if those feelings of isolation, those moments of confusion, were actually preparing you for something far greater than you could imagine? In the Bible, God often chose individuals who didn't fit the mold, who were misunderstood by those around them. Look at David, for example. As a young boy, he was overlooked by his own family, yet God saw something in him that no one else could see. In 1 Samuel 16-7, God reminds us, "The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." So, what if those feelings of being different, of being misunderstood, are part of God's plan for you? What if those early moments were not signs of weakness, but signs of strength that were being cultivated within you? Could it be that God was molding you even then, preparing you for the incredible journey He had in store for you? In this video, we're going to explore why chosen ones like you often seem older and more mature in youth, yet somehow experience a renewed spirit as they grow older. You've lived through battles, inner struggles, moments of chaos, times when fear and anxiety tried to hold you back. But what if all of that was part of a divine plan? The battles you fought weren't in vain. They were the refining fire shaping you into the person you are becoming. And have you noticed as you've grown older that something within you has shifted? Your identity, once uncertain, now feels more aligned with your purpose. Your style, your mindset, everything seems to be falling into place. Not because of your own effort, but because of God working through you. He began to calm your storms, and with each step, He brought you closer to the peace that surpasses all understanding. Philippians 4:7 speaks of this peace. "And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." As that peace deepens within you, it begins to shine outward. People around you may still not understand it, but you can feel the change. You're becoming more radiant, more sure of your purpose. And even though life may still hold challenges, there's a sense of calm that now guides your every step. This transformation, though invisible to many, is proof of God's hand in your life. It's a sign that He is at work within you, changing you from the inside out. So I ask you this: what do you think God is preparing you for? What is He calling you to do with this transformation happening within you? As you walk in His peace and power, you are becoming more than you ever imagined. You are being prepared for a purpose that will change the world around you. And the best part is, it's just the beginning. Chosen ones, let's get started. God changed your appearance. You keep looking better, and no one knows why. Now, when you look in the mirror, you see someone transformed, a person who radiates an undeniable glow, not just in appearance but in spirit. You carry the glow of inner strength, purpose, and the presence of God within you. It's as though something has shifted inside of you, and that transformation is now becoming visible to the world. As you grow closer to the person God created you to be, your appearance, energy, and spirit seem to defy the natural course of time. You look younger, more vibrant, and more at peace than ever before. Have you noticed this? It's as if you're aging in reverse. The world might not understand it, but deep down you feel it. The divine work taking place in your life. There's something about you, something unique, that has always set you apart. From the very beginning, you carried an unspoken weight in your eyes, a burden of wisdom and understanding that didn't align with your age. As a child, you often felt like you were living in a world that didn't quite fit you. You were born with a maturity that others couldn't comprehend, and this made you feel different. Even when you were young, there was an inner knowing that guided you, an understanding of things far beyond your years, but it wasn't always appreciated or understood by those around you. People looked at you, wondering why someone so young seemed to have experienced the weight of the world. They saw the struggle, the quiet intensity in your eyes, but they couldn't see the strength it gave you. You weren't like everyone else, were you? You didn't laugh as easily, and you didn't fit into the mold that society or even your peers expected you to. There was a part of you that felt out of place, as if you were searching for something, but you couldn't quite name it. So, have you ever wondered why you've always felt different? Why your soul yearned for something deeper, something higher, even when others around you seemed content with the ordinary? You were never content with the surface level of things. There was always something calling you to look deeper, to understand more, to seek beyond the visible. The Bible speaks about individuals who were chosen by God even before they were born, people who were set apart for a purpose greater than they could have imagined. In Jeremiah 1-5, God says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." This is your story too. From the moment you were conceived, God knew you, He chose you, and He has been with you, shaping you for something extraordinary. This sense of being different, of feeling like you didn't quite fit in, wasn't a mistake. It was part of God's plan for you, preparing you for a higher calling. You see, while the world may not understand why you've always felt this way, God has been preparing you for your true purpose. Your unique perspective, your sensitivity to the world's pain, your wisdom beyond your years. These are the marks of someone chosen by God. Even as you struggled with feelings of being out of place, God was working behind the scenes, drawing you closer to the person He destined you to become. As you've grown, something has begun to shift. You've felt the weight of that early struggle begin to lighten, and as God's presence has deepened in your life, a sense of peace has settled within you. You're no longer searching, no longer lost in the chaos. The maturity you carried in your youth has transformed into a renewed sense of joy and vitality. You've grown into yourself, and as you've grown closer to God, your spirit has become lighter, your heart more at ease, and your purpose clearer. This is the power of God's transformation. He doesn't just change your heart, He transforms every part of you. Isaiah 40:31 reminds us, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." This is exactly what is happening to you. The more you draw near to God, the more you will be renewed. Your appearance, energy, and spirit will reflect that renewal, and though others may not understand it, they will see the change. So, what if all of those years of feeling different, of carrying the weight of the world, were actually a preparation for this moment? What if the maturity you carried as a child was a sign of the divine wisdom God placed in you from the very beginning? What if now, as you grow closer to Him, you're beginning to feel the full weight of His presence, and in doing so, you are being renewed, transformed, and brought into the fullness of who He created you to be? This is the power of being chosen. It's not just about being different, it's about being set apart for a divine purpose. And you are walking in that purpose now. Many of you, the chosen ones, have walked through seasons of struggle, seasons where anxiety, fear, and even addiction crept into your life, each one trying to fill the void within you that no earthly thing could ever satisfy. You may have tried to numb that longing with temporary comforts, but deep down, you always knew that something was missing. The world around you was loud and chaotic, and you were constantly searching for something stable, something to anchor you. You were trying to find your footing, your style, your identity, but it shifted, didn't it? One day, you felt bold, ready to be seen, to stand out. The next day, you wanted nothing more than to disappear, to fade into the background. Your soul was pulled in so many different directions, and it left you feeling confused and weary. The emotions you carried were intense, weren't they? You often felt like you were carrying the weight of the world, burdened by feelings that others didn't seem to understand. You wore that heaviness like a cloak, feeling too much, too deeply. And yet, no one seemed to understand the depths of what you were experiencing. Your friends, they couldn't grasp the struggles that gripped your heart, and your family, though they loved you, often couldn't see the inner battles you fought. It felt lonely, didn't it? A loneliness that ran deeper than just being physically alone. It was the kind of loneliness that comes from feeling misunderstood, from feeling like you were the only one who truly knew the depth of your own heart. You carried the weight of those years in your face, in your body. It was etched into your skin, the battles you fought, the misunderstandings you endured, and the confusion that clouded your path. You may have looked older than your years, as though your soul had worn the pain on the outside before its time. You saw it, didn't you? When you looked in the mirror, you didn't just see a reflection. You saw the story of a life that felt far older than it should have been. You felt tired before you even had the chance to truly live, as though the weight of your struggles had stolen your youth. There was a time, wasn't there, when you looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the reflection staring back? You might have felt disconnected from yourself, as if the person looking back at you didn't match the beauty you hoped for or the strength you longed to embody. Maybe you wondered, why does it feel like I've lived so much already, yet I'm still so young? You didn't see the strength within you, and you didn't feel like enough, no matter how much you tried to show up for others. The world saw a version of you, but you saw a different person, a person who felt far less than they were truly meant to be. Let me ask you this. What if those years of struggle, the seasons of feeling disconnected from yourself, weren't in vain? What if all of it was part of the process that God was using to shape you into the person you were always meant to become? The Bible reminds us in Romans 8:28 that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. That means even the struggles, the pain, the seasons of feeling lost or misunderstood, God was working through them, using them to mold you into something greater. Have you ever stopped to think that perhaps the battles you fought in silence were actually making you stronger, preparing you for the calling that God placed on your life long before you were born? 2 Corinthians 4:17 tells us, "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all." What if those struggles you endured, those moments of loneliness and confusion, were the light and momentary troubles that were shaping you for something far greater than you could see at the time? You see, The person you are becoming is not defined by the weight of those years. Yes, you may have looked older than your years, but that was the soul within you maturing before its time, learning lessons and gaining strength that would carry you through the rest of your journey. God was at work in you, even in the hardest moments. And just like gold is refined in fire, you were being refined, shaped, and made ready for the purpose He has set for you. And now, as you draw closer to the person God created you to be, you will begin to see that transformation not just in your spirit, but in your outward appearance as well. You will begin to feel the heaviness lift, and with that, the reflection in the mirror will begin to match the strength you carry within. You will start to recognize the beauty that God has placed in you, the strength that He has given you, and the light that He is bringing into your life. The person you once saw as disconnected from the beauty you long to embody is now becoming the person God always intended you to be. So I ask you now, what if you've always been on the path to this transformation? What if everything you've been through, all the confusion and pain, were part of the divine process that's leading you to the radiant, strong, and purposeful person you are becoming? You're not just a survivor of your struggles, you are a chosen one, and your journey is just beginning. On the other hand, you didn't always eat the right foods, did you? Maybe it was because you didn't care enough to nourish yourself, or perhaps you didn't know how. Perhaps in those moments it felt easier to ignore your body's needs than to face the deeper feelings that stirred within you. Your body didn't feel like home. It felt like a foreign vessel, a source of discomfort, always reminding you of how far you felt from the person you were meant to be. You could feel it deep down. You weren't meant to be like everyone else. You were made for something different, something more, and yet the desire to fit in still clung to your heart. You longed to be seen, to belong, and at times you found yourself trying to mold yourself into something you were never meant to be, just to feel that sense of acceptance, even if it was temporary. The clothes you wore never felt right, did they? No matter how many outfits you tried, nothing seemed to fit, not just physically, but emotionally. You tried to cover up the parts of yourself that felt exposed, uncomfortable, and misunderstood. The fabric would cling too tightly in some places, hang too loosely in others, mirroring the unease within. It was a constant battle of feeling out of place. There was always something that didn't quite align. Your outward appearance never matched the person you were becoming on the inside. You felt misplaced, restless, and, perhaps more than anything, misunderstood. But here's the thing you might not have realized at the time. Even when you felt lost, there was something deeper stirring within you. There was a calling. God was whispering to you, urging you to rise above. He was drawing you toward the person you were always meant to be, a person He had been shaping, even in the most chaotic of seasons. God's hand has always been on your life, guiding you even through the darkest years, through those times when it felt like you were walking through a storm with no end in sight. But those struggles were never for nothing. God was using them to mold you, to refine you through the fire of obstacles, and to shape you for a purpose far greater than you could see in those moments of pain. Do you ever stop and think about how those dark seasons were not a sign of abandonment, but of preparation? The Bible assures us in Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." Even in your deepest moments of doubt, God was laying the groundwork for what He had destined for your life. He allowed you to walk through those storms because He knew what was waiting on the other side. He knew that through those experiences you would become stronger, wiser, and more in tune with His voice. And over time, something began to shift, didn't it? Slowly, you started to find yourself. It didn't happen overnight, but as you began to quiet the noise of the world and listen to the whisper of God within your soul, you started to see that He had never left you. You learned to discern the quiet voice of truth in your heart, the same voice that had always been there, calling you to rise, to stand firm in your identity, to embrace the beauty of the person you were becoming. You may have spent years trying to fit into a mold that wasn't designed for you. You may have tried to wear the clothes that society said would make you acceptable. But in the stillness, in the quiet moments, when you let go of the pressure to conform, you began to hear the call of your true identity, the one God had created for you from the very beginning. So, what if all those years of feeling out of place, those moments of self-doubt and confusion, were actually a part of God's perfect plan? What if He was preparing you for something greater than you could have ever imagined? What if you are walking exactly the path He wants you to walk, and the transformation you are experiencing now is just the beginning of His work in you? God's purpose for your life is unfolding, and He has been with you every step of the way, even in the moments when you felt most distant from Him. Isaiah 55, 8-9 reminds us, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." Even when you couldn't see it, God was working behind the scenes, bringing everything into alignment with His divine plan for your life. So now, as you begin to see the shifts happening within you, when you feel peace in places that once held chaos, remember this: you were always meant to be different. You were never meant to fit the mold the world tried to impose on you. And now, as you step into the fullness of your identity, you'll begin to feel at home in your own skin, the clothes, the habits, the desires. They'll start to align with who you were always meant to be. And you'll no longer be searching for a place to belong, because you'll realize you've always belonged to God. There came a moment, didn't there, when you recognized that this body, this vessel, was something sacred, not to be neglected or mistreated. Slowly, you began to shift your perspective, understanding that caring for yourself wasn't an act of vanity, but an act of gratitude, a recognition of the gift God had entrusted to you. The Apostle Paul reminds us in 1 Corinthians 6, 19-20, "Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own, you were bought at a price." This truth began to resonate within you, guiding you toward a deeper respect for the body you inhabit. As this understanding settled within, you found yourself nourishing your body, not merely through food or exercise, but with elements far more profound. You discovered the value of peace, the importance of stillness, and the transforming power of love. The inner conflicts that once raged within you, the battles that left you feeling torn and uncertain, began to fade. You no longer felt the need to strive for perfection or to seek validation in the opinions of others. Instead, you found a quiet assurance that settled your spirit, bringing you back to a place of wholeness. In those quiet moments, when you allowed yourself to rest in God's presence, something miraculous began to happen. The confusion that once clouded your sense of identity started to lift. It was as if God was lifting the veil from your eyes, allowing you to see yourself as He sees you: beloved, whole, and purposeful. Slowly, calmness replaced anxiety. Clarity took the place of doubt, and a true sense of self began to emerge. Do you remember when this transformation began to take root? Perhaps it wasn't all at once, but day by day you noticed a new strength growing within. You started walking with greater confidence, feeling at home in your own skin, realizing that you were no longer defined by past struggles or by the world's standards. Isaiah 26:3 reminds us, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. That peace became your anchor, grounding you as you continued on this journey. So, do you recognize the person you're becoming? The version of yourself that feels whole, calm, and connected to God's purpose. This transformation isn't a coincidence. It's part of His divine design, a process He's been guiding all along. And as you continue to walk in this new understanding, honoring the temple He's given you, you'll find a peace and fulfillment that nothing in this world can take away. Sometimes the anxiety that once gripped you, the fear that held you back, all started to lose their power. You stopped looking for external things to fill the void, and instead let God fill you with His grace, His strength, His purpose. And something remarkable happened. You began to look younger. The face that once showed the stress of trying to be everything the world wanted now glows with the peace of knowing who you are in God's eyes. The body that once carried the weight of confusion and turmoil now moves with grace and confidence. Your style isn't all over the place anymore. It's simple, authentic, reflecting the peace within you. You're no longer hiding behind trends or expectations. You're wearing the beauty of knowing yourself, and more importantly, of knowing God. People see you now and notice something different. You are calm, unshaken by the world's chaos. There's a glow about you, a softness that only comes from someone who has walked through the fire and emerged purified. Your energy is magnetic, but not in the loud, attention-seeking way of the world. It's quiet, powerful, grounded in something deeper than flesh and bone. It's the light of God shining through you. You once felt misunderstood, like no one saw you for who you truly were. Now, you don't seek to be understood by everyone, because you know that everyone is meant to walk your path. You've found peace in being set apart, in being chosen. The chosen ones, after all, are not here to blend in with the world. They are here to transform it. You may still feel different, but now you wear that difference with pride, with honor. You know that God has placed something within you that the world needs, even if it doesn't yet realize it. Yes, the journey wasn't easy. It took time. There were days when the burden felt too heavy, when the anxiety felt like it would swallow you whole. But through every moment, God was with you. He saw your tears, your struggles, your moments of doubt, and He whispered, "Hold on, I am making something beautiful out of your pain." And now, here you are, standing in the glow of that transformation. As you've transformed, people around you have begun to notice. Some are drawn to your newfound peace, your glowing presence, and they admire the strength and beauty that radiates from within. They see the change, and it inspires them. But not everyone responds with kindness. Some are envious of your growth, threatened by the light that now shines from you. They may try to tear you down, to diminish the glow you've worked so hard to cultivate, but they can't touch it. The strength you carry is from God, and the glow of a good soul cannot be destroyed by envy or malice. It is a divine light that stands strong against any attempt to dim it. What they may never understand is that your transformation reaches far beyond the physical. It's spiritual, eternal, and rooted in the unwavering presence of God's hand upon you. His work within you is unshakable. No force can dismantle what He has built in the core of your being. Today, as we sit in the presence of who we've become, let's take a moment to look back at the images of our younger selves, the moments captured in faded photos and memories. These are the images we used to turn away from, the snapshots of moments that once made us cringe or feel unworthy. But now, as we look with new eyes, something profound has changed. We recognize beauty in those faces, strength in the innocence of those fragile bodies, and resilience in the eyes of the child or young adult we once were. How blind we were to the beauty that was always there, hidden beneath layers of innocence, wrapped in the struggle of trying to find ourselves in a world that didn't understand us. And yet, God saw that beauty all along. The psalmist reminds us in Psalm 139:14, "I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well." Even when we didn't see it, God saw us as His wonderful creation, brimming with purpose and potential. Now, as we reflect, we see that truth written across the faces we once hid from. When we look at those photos today, the tears that fill our eyes aren't born from shame or regret, but from a place of deep love and gratitude. How did we not see it back then? How could we have been so unaware of the beauty that radiated from within us, even in the midst of confusion, even when we felt lost? There was courage in our innocence and bravery in every step we took as we tried to find our way. We realize now that beauty wasn't in some imagined perfection. It was in the quiet strength that carried us through each day, in the resilience that held us together, even as we wrestled with questions and fears we couldn't articulate. Can you feel that strength now as you look back on the person you were? Do you see the evidence of God's hand in each chapter, guiding you even when you didn't recognize it? Isaiah 46:4 promises, "Even to your old age and gray hairs I am He who will sustain you. I have made you and I will carry you. I will sustain you and I will rescue you." Even when we felt most alone, God was sustaining us, carrying us through, instilling a beauty and resilience that no earthly standard could define. So today, as we sit with the knowledge of who we are becoming, let us honor that journey. Let us recognize that our beauty was never in flawless exteriors, but in the strength of a soul that has withstood life's trials and emerged closer to God. We may have once felt misunderstood, out of place, or hidden. But we see now that every step, every struggle, was part of God's loving work, shaping us to stand in the fullness of His grace and power. We were so young, so fragile, and yet so strong. Those little bodies, those innocent minds, they knew nothing, yet they carried us through everything. The fears we battled, the anxiety that wrapped itself around us like a suffocating blanket. And still, we got up each day. We wore masks not to deceive others, but to protect ourselves from the judgment we feared. We thought the world saw right through us, but what we didn't know was that even then, God saw us for who we truly were. He saw the beauty we couldn't see in ourselves, and He stayed with us, guiding us, even when we didn't know how to follow Him. As we look back with the clarity that time and God's guidance have given us, we no longer see those past versions of ourselves with pity, but with a profound sense of pride. How could we feel otherwise? Those versions of us were brave. They were doing the best they could with the knowledge and strength they had. They were paving the way for the people we would eventually become, laying the foundation brick by brick. Each moment of doubt, each night spent wrestling with a sense of belonging, was a piece of the path that led us to where we are now. And as we stand here today, stronger, wiser, and more at peace, it becomes clear that we owe those past selves a deep sense of gratitude. They fought battles we've nearly forgotten, battles that carved resilience and faith into the very fabric of our souls. Psalm 139:16 tells us, "All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." Those past selves, with all their flaws and imperfections, were part of God's design, shaping us in ways we couldn't yet understand. Think back to those sleepless nights, those relentless struggles to fit into a world that seemed to reject us at every turn. Our younger selves may not have known it, but they were warriors, carrying dreams and hopes we weren't yet strong enough to fulfill. And isn't that a beautiful thought? They bore the weight of dreams they couldn't yet realize, holding them close and protecting them until we were ready to take them into our own hands and make them reality. What if every tear shed, every battle fought, was part of God's preparation for the purpose we now see unfolding in our lives? Romans 5:3-4 reminds us that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. Through those experiences, God was planting seeds of hope and resilience within us, shaping us for the plans He had always intended. Now, as we look back, there's an overwhelming sense of love, not just for where we are, but for every version of who we've been. They may not have been perfect, but they were undeniably courageous. They stood in the gaps, believing that somehow, some way, a better future awaited. They longed for the love and acceptance that we now realize was always with us, from a God who loved us unconditionally from the beginning. And as we rest in that love, we feel a peace that the world can't shake. We no longer seek the validation of others, because we know we are loved by the one who created us, the one who has walked with us through every season of doubt, struggle, and growth. This love has always been enough. It carried us when we were weak and lifted us when we stumbled. And now, as we embrace that love fully, we realize that every part of our journey, every high and low, every past self, is a testament to God's faithfulness in our lives. Even now, as we stand grounded in newfound strength, we can't help but look back with a deep, reverent gratitude for the younger versions of ourselves who carried us here. Those past selves were burdened with doubts, entangled in fears, and often uncertain about the road ahead. Yet, they were also filled with a quiet, resilient hope, a hope for a peace they hadn't yet known, a hope that one day their struggles would bear fruit. In their own way, through whispered prayers or silent tears, they asked God for the life we're now living. And here's the most profound truth: God heard those prayers. In moments when we felt lost, as though our cries went unnoticed, He was there, listening to every word, witnessing every tear. Psalm 56:8 says, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book." Those fears and worries we carried in secret were never lost on Him. Even when we couldn't see the next step, He was gently guiding us, working in ways unseen, leading us to this very moment where peace finally feels like home. Think of those times when you felt like giving up, when the weight seemed too heavy and the way forward was unclear. Do you remember the whispers of hope, those small glimmers of resilience that surfaced in your darkest hours? That was God's hand, steadying you, assuring you, even if you didn't fully recognize it. He was weaving together each of those moments, each prayer and every tear into a greater purpose. Just as Romans 8:28 reminds us, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." What if every cry, every moment of despair was a part of God's plan to bring you closer to the strength and peace you now carry? Imagine if all those younger selves, the versions of you who wrestled with doubt, who felt alone, could see you now, standing in the life they once hoped and prayed for. Wouldn't they feel a sense of pride, knowing their courage and resilience weren't in vain? So, here we are, standing in the answers to prayers we may have forgotten we ever prayed, living a life shaped by a God who has been faithful every step of the way. And as we move forward, may we carry this gratitude, knowing that each chapter of our journey has been a testament to His unwavering presence and love. As we step forward into the future, we carry with us not only the dreams of who we once were, but also the unbreakable strength, the wisdom, and the love that God has built within us. Those past versions of ourselves, the ones who endured hardship, who loved despite their flaws, and who kept hoping when hope seemed distant, are still part of us, woven into the fabric of who we are today. And with each step we take, we're walking forward with the knowledge that God's grace has been there through every trial, every tear, and every triumph. He saw the beauty and the strength in us even when we were too weary to see it ourselves, and He never let go. Now, we stand tall, knowing that the light we carry isn't solely of our own making. It's the radiance of His love and guidance that has brought us here. The glow others may see is a testament to His faithfulness, the light of a spirit shaped, refined, and cherished by God Himself. And that light, rooted in His grace, is a light that cannot be dimmed by any earthly trial or by the opinions of others. It is eternal, secure, and unwavering, because it is rooted in something far greater than ourselves. With this truth in our hearts, we walk forward now with a newfound peace, knowing deep down that we are enough. We have always been enough in God's eyes. We embrace this journey with love for who we were, love for who we are becoming, and love for the path that still lies ahead. We walk with God, confident that every step we take is part of His divine plan for us, a plan that was designed with love, purpose, and a hope that cannot be shaken. To those of you still fighting your own inner battles, to those who look in the mirror and don't yet recognize the beauty or the strength within, take heart. You are more resilient than you realize, more beautiful than you know, and God is with you every step of the way, just as He has always been. And one day, you too will look back and see the courage, the strength, and the beauty that was there all along. You will be proud of who you've been, proud of who you are, and proud of the journey that has made you into the person God created you to be. If this message has touched your heart, if it resonates with your journey, I invite you to like this video, share it with others who might need encouragement, and leave a comment sharing your own story or a moment that strengthened your faith. Together, let's build a community that uplifts and supports one another in God's love. May God bless you, guide you, and shine His light upon your path, now and always.